Oh, okay. So since we've heard from Jeff from Georgia, you are all familiar with the enormous amount of voter suppression that is taking place in Georgia this go through. Kemp, who is the Secretary of State, this is the guy who's in charge of voting, also happens to be running for governor and has a unique power to shape the electorate in a way that is highly inappropriate. And he's already disenfranchised tens of thousands of voters, a huge percentage of whom are African American. It must be a total coincidence. But the Secretary of State, to be fair, has released a video to show you what happens if you are somehow ensnared by their draconian policies and can't vote on the day of the election. And what's very cute about this, there's two things. One that's cute about it is it's all done with kids. All the kids are playing the roles of the various voters and voting officials. And then the other really cute thing about it is apparently, since Kemp knows that the vast majority of people he has disenfranchised from their votes are African American, the girl playing the person who can't vote is African American.
It's voting location. The process is exactly the same as voting in person on election day.
The white kid, he comes in.
You will complete
boy,
and sign a
his
voter
ID.
certificate, provide an acceptable form of photo identification, and then vote on an electronic voting machine.
Goes to vote on electronic voting machine. He gets a sticker. I voted. Pause it for 1 second. Now, we should tell you, these electronic voting machines, you'll recall after the last election in 2016, they scrubbed some of the servers right before they were supposed to be investigated. I'm sure that was a coincidence, too. So it's electronic voting machine, folks. There you go.
Technology is bullshit.
Well,
in New York, we use punch cards, and they work amazingly.
Yes, but in New York, there's far less people than in Okay, let's watch the rest of this video. He's got a sticker. Oh, here comes the
Don't have an acceptable form
girl
of photo
who's
identification
black.
when you're at the polling
she doesn't have the
location,
ID.
both on election day and during advanced voting.
working.
You can vote a provisional ballot. If you vote a provisional ballot, you have 3 days after election day to return to your county elections office to show your photo identification.
Oh, that's convenient.
For your ballot to be accepted.
You get to
and
make
counted.
another special trip to vote after you've waited 4 hours in line to vote. 3 days. Now, voting is on Tuesday, 3 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You don't even get a weekend. You got to take 2 days off from work to vote, folks. Because if you are black, you need to prove that you want to vote just a little bit more. You need to show just a little bit more effort to vote in Kemp's, Georgia. That's just the way it goes.
I like how they don't even try to hide it in that video.
It's stunning.
Representation in film is important, though, Sam.
Yes, at least African Americans will get an opportunity to model themselves after that person who's been disenfranchised. And that's the way they can respond to their disenfranchisement, with a smile. And this is no problem. Really just stunning. So if you are in Georgia. There's some more to this. Oh, is there more?
People are mad at me for saying punch cards. I meant paper and pencil. Regardless, we vote analog style.
Yeah, more analog the better.
If you don't return, your ballot will be rejected and it will not count.
Oh.
Please note that all election-related forms and materials, including ballots, are available in English only. For more information,
that's
please
nice.
visit our website at sos.ga.gov/elections or call us at 404-656-2871 if you have any questions.
Yeah.
This
What's
is a
wrong
public
with you
service
people?
designated-
How about that? That's my
Wow.
question. Unbelievable.
It's a new era.
This is what also, again, Nancy Pelosi has a tenure, and there needs to be new leadership in the House. For the life of me, I don't know who that person would be, though, if we wanted a leader who's going to push that to the left. People have suggested Barbara Lee in the past, and she has not signaled any interest in that position. But maybe if there's enough of an outcry, I don't know. But one of the things that the Democrats should have on the list for those hearings is voter suppression, to set up an opportunity when Democrats control the Senate and control the presidency to make the right to vote a federally legislated, canonized right. Because this is why and they need to fix the Voting Rights Act to override essentially the Supreme Court veto of the previously reauthorized Voting Rights Act, which had, I think it was 14 states that were subject to pre-clearance by the Department of Justice, so that if you make any changes to your voting, the Department of Justice needs to okay it because you have a record of disenfranchising minority voters.
What do you think the over-under is on Democrats ever doing something like that?
I would say the reestablishment of the Voting Rights Act, I would bet a lot they would do that. I would bet a lot that they would do that.
I would love to be wrong about this. I'm much more cynical about the Democratic Party. I just want to put this idea out here. I don't know if it's necessarily 100% true, but the Democrats' relationship with the Republicans is kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like Cuomo's relationship with the IDC, right? Because as long as they have Republicans to block the progressive things they're trying to do, then they don't actually have to do that much and go against the wishes of their donors.
Except for the 50 years in which they did pass the Voting Rights Act and reauthorize it time and time again. It was a Republican-controlled Supreme Court that gutted it. They have the votes the Democrats all have the votes to reinstate that Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, but the Republicans stop it. So
it's also a different kind of party than it used to be.
Right. It's more sensitive, I think, right now in terms of that, without a doubt. I mean, I think like there may be some issues when you start getting into things like banks and Wall Street, but in voting rights, I think you're on very thin ice in terms of trying to suggest that Democrats don't want to pass it. In New York, with Andrew Cuomo and the corruption that is in New York State politics, I think there is an attempt to disenfranchise certain segments of the population. Certainly, there's a district in Queens and I think one in the Bronx, which were subject to that pre-clearance by the DOJ because you had local candidates. But in terms of like the House and the Congress, I'd be willing to bet you all of it.
Well, I hope that you're right.
Every single dollar.
But I don't think so.
Your bike, I'll bet you your bike.
It's not actually mine. It belongs to my friend.
I'll bet you your friend's bike.
Oh, geez, she's going to be so mad.
She's going to be
Only
super
not
mad.
because I'm going to win. Sad.
All right, so here is...